Okay, so if you or a loved one rely on a disabled parking placard here in Ohio, you already know it is an absolute lifesaver for your daily independence. But what happens when it expires? Well, letting that lapse can turn into a massive bureaucratic headache. Today, in this explainer, we are breaking down exactly how to keep your Ohio parking privileges active, completely stress-free.
Let me ask you something. Did you know that parking with an expired placard in Ohio could actually cost you up to $500? Seriously. The convenience of these placards is amazing, but the state takes their validity very, very seriously.
Yeah, it's not just some minor oversight where you get a polite little warning tucked under your windshield wiper. No way. Operating a vehicle and parking in an accessible space with an expired placard, that's actually considered a misdemeanor offense. You could literally be facing a law enforcement citation and a hefty fine anywhere from $250 to $500. So the stakes are definitely high, but hey, maintaining your status is super easy once you know the exact steps.
So to make sure your parking privileges never lapse, we've broken this down into 5 quick sections. Number 1, eligibility and renewal basics. Number 2, a step-by-step renewal guide. Number 3, submission, timelines, and fees. Number 4, common mistakes to avoid. And finally, number 5, final tips and resources. All right, let's dive right in.
Section 1. Eligibility and Renewal Basics.
So first things first, who exactly qualifies under Ohio law? Well, the criteria are very specific, and they're mainly focused on mobility impairments. You're looking at qualifying conditions like basically not being able to walk 200 feet without having to stop and rest, or if you heavily rely on an assistive device, a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, that sort of thing. It also covers severe lung disease, class 3 or 4 cardiac conditions, severe arthritic, neurological, or orthopedic limitations, and being legally blind. These exact medical parameters are strictly enforced, mostly just to make sure those accessible spots are kept open for the folks who truly functionally need them. Oh, and by the way, non-drivers who meet these criteria, they can get a placard too, to use in whatever vehicle they happen to be traveling in.
Now, Ohio offers 3 different types of placards depending on what you need. First up, we've got the temporary red placard. This one covers short-term medical recoveries for up to 6 months. Then there's the standard blue placard, and that's designed for conditions lasting longer than 6 months, good for up to 10 years. And finally, the permanent placard. Now this is a real game changer. Thanks to a recent update called House Bill 33, Ohio completely streamlined the process. They made permanent placards actually permanent. Yep, no expiration date. They did this specifically to cut down on all that annoying administrative red tape for citizens with lifelong, irreversible physical impairments. So, no more dealing with those periodic medical recertifications. Pretty great, right?
Moving right along, Section 2, Step-by-Step Renewal Guide.
Okay, so there are basically 4 totally manageable steps to get your placard renewed. Step 1, grab your ID and note your current expiration date, just so you know exactly what kind of timeline you're working with. Step 2, get a fresh medical prescription or certification from a licensed healthcare provider confirming your ongoing need. Step 3, fill out the mandatory form BMV 4826. And Step 4, submit that whole package to the BMV. I mean, it really is that simple. But let's zoom in on that form for a second.
All right, Form BMV 4826. This is the official Ohio Department of Public Safety application for disability placards. The whole top portion, that's all you, your applicant details, name, address, and a verifiable ID number, like your driver's license or social security number. But the rest of the form, that requires a licensed healthcare provider's signature and prescription. And let me be super clear, that signature is absolutely mandatory. Whether you're renewing a standard placard or applying for a temporary one, this document has to be filled out perfectly.
Which brings us to Section 3, Submission, Timelines, and Fees.
So, where does all this paperwork go? Well, you essentially have 2 great options for submitting it to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. You can pop the completed application and prescription right in the mail, sending it directly to Registration Support Services over in Columbus. Or, if you're like me and you just want to hand it over in person and skip the post office entirely, you can submit it at any local BMV Deputy Registrar agency anywhere in the state.
Now let's talk timelines, because the last thing you want is to get caught with an expired placard while you're waiting on the mailman. If you go the mail route, you generally want to allow about 10 to 15 business days for processing before that new placard shows up at your door. On the flip side, going in person to a local deputy registrar might get you much faster results. Like, you could potentially walk out with your new credential right there on the spot.
And what about the cost? Well, good news here. Ohio is actually really accommodating. For permanent and standard placards, there is generally 0 state fee for issuance or renewal. None. However, if you're getting a temporary placard, or if you need a replacement because your original was lost, stolen, or somehow damaged, you're probably going to face a nominal $5 processing fee. It's totally affordable, but just make sure you have that $5 ready if it applies to your situation.
All right, Section 4, Common Mistakes to Avoid.
Let's do a quick rapid fire of the top mistakes to avoid so your application doesn't get held up. First off, do not apply for your renewal more than 90 days before your current placard actually expires. Second, like we talked about earlier, absolutely never use an expired placard. Third, and a lot of people don't know this, it is actually illegal to drive with the placard hanging from your rearview mirror. You've got to take it down before you put your car in drive so it doesn't block your view. And finally, never, ever park in those striped access aisles next to the disability spaces. Those are absolutely vital for deploying wheelchair ramps. Oh, and one quick side note, if you just lost your placard and simply need a replacement, you only have to fill out the top part of Form BMV 4026. You don't need to go get a whole new medical prescription just for a replacement.
And finally, Section 5, Final Tips and Resources. So what if getting to a physical clinic for a medical evaluation is tough for you? Well, it is definitely worth noting that telehealth resources are out there. Platforms like Handicap MD and Parking MD actually offer online medical certifications. It's pretty neat. Through these services, licensed clinicians can assess your functional mobility over a video or phone call, and if you qualify, they'll provide that signed medical prescription you need for your BMV 4826 form, often sending it to you digitally within 24 to 48 hours.
Now, before we wrap this all up, I do need to give you a quick official disclaimer. The information in this explainer is based on current Ohio laws and procedures. But, as we all know, regulations and fees can and do change over time. So always verify the most up-to-date guidelines and forms directly with official Ohio state resources, like the Ohio BMV website, before you go ahead with your application. So, we've covered the rules, the forms, the fees, and the timelines. Now it's totally over to you. Do you know when your placard expires? Seriously, go check it right now. Do not let a simple piece of plastic turn into a $500 fine. Get ahead of it, stay mobile, and keep your parking privileges secure.